I used to think silence was peaceful. Now, it's just loud. After Margaret passed, the house turned into something I didn't recognize. It wasn't the same place where we raised our kids, where the smell of her cinnamon rolls used to drift down the hallway every Sunday morning. Now, it was just walls. Walls that echoed every breath I took. It's funny people say that grief feels like a heavy stone in your chest. But to me, it was more like fog. It didn't crush me. It just surrounded me, day after day, blurring everything I looked at. The mornings were the hardest. I'd wake up automatically at 6, like I always did for 40 years, expecting to hear her humming in the kitchen. But instead, there was that silence again, the kind that makes your ears ring. I'd sit at the edge of the bed, looking at her side of the blanket still neatly tucked, and I'd think, what am I supposed to do with the rest of my mornings now? I stopped opening the curtains for a while. Sunlight felt wrong. It was like the world was moving on, and I wasn't ready to follow. The neighbors tried. They really did. Sally from across the street brought me casseroles that could feed a family of 10. Tom dropped by with his dog, trying to get me to come on his morning walks. But I didn't have it in me. Every conversation felt like climbing uphill with weights on my legs. So I started shrinking my world smaller and smaller. I stayed inside, ate when I remembered to, watched old reruns until I fell asleep on the couch. Days blurred into each other, like one long, gray afternoon. And then one morning, I opened the back door by mistake. I meant to take out the trash, but when I stepped outside, I saw the backyard for the first time in months. The grass had gone wild. The rose bushes Margaret loved so much were tangled in weeds. Her garden, the one she spent hours in, talking to plants like they were old friends, looked like it had given up, too. Something inside me twisted when I saw it. That garden had always been hers. Every spring, she'd drag me out there to help plant new flowers. She'd wear that big floppy hat and hum to herself while I pretended to know what I was doing. I used to tease her, saying she cared more about those roses than about me. She'd just laugh and tell me, "Don't be silly, you're both prickly and hard to take care of." Standing there, months later, I could almost hear her saying it again. I don't know what made me do it, but I picked up the old trowel from the shed. The handle was cracked, the metal rusted, but it still fit in my hand. I knelt down beside one of the rose bushes, pushed aside the dead leaves, and started to pull out weeds. The first handful was tougher than I expected. My knees cracked, my back protested, and dirt got under my fingernails. I cursed under my breath, something Margaret never allowed in her garden. But then, as I worked, I noticed something small, a bud. Tiny, green, fragile, but alive. That was the first time I felt something other than emptiness. Not joy. Not even hope. Just a flicker. like a small candle lighting up in a room I'd kept dark for too long. I didn't stay out long that day. Maybe 15 minutes. But that night, when I went to bed, my hands still smelled faintly of earth and leaves. And for some reason, that smell reminded me of her laughter. The next morning, I went back out again. I started cleaning up one section at a time. It wasn't easy, the weeds fought back like they had a grudge. But there was something calming about it. The rhythm of pulling, cutting, digging. The sound of dirt falling back into place. The sun on my shoulders. It wasn't about gardening, really. It was about doing something, anything, that made the world feel real again. Days turned into weeks. And slowly, the silence around the house began to change. It wasn't gone, but it wasn't empty anymore. It had a heartbeat now, rustling leaves, birdsong, the soft hum of bees. Sometimes, I'd catch myself talking to her out loud. "Margaret, you'd scold me for planting these tomatoes too close together." Or, "I know you hated marigolds, but look, they're the only ones surviving out here." I don't know if she heard me, but I like to think she did. Then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. A little boy from next door, Eli, I think, peeked over the fence. I hadn't really talked to him before. He had one of those messy cowlicks and a runny nose, always riding his bike up and down the street. "What are you doing, mister?" he asked. "Pulling weeds," I said without looking up. He watched for a moment. "Why?" I hesitated. I didn't have a simple answer for that. Finally, I said, "Because someone has to." He nodded like he understood, even though I knew he didn't. Then he disappeared for a minute and came back holding a little plastic watering can shaped like a frog. "I can help," he said. And just like that, there were two of us in the garden. He asked questions. Lots of them. About the flowers, about the bugs, about whether worms could be pets. He talked so much that at first it annoyed me, but after a while, I realized the sound of his voice filled the empty spaces I'd been trying so hard not to notice. When he left, I sat back on my heels and looked around. The garden was still a mess. But it wasn't a dead mess anymore. Something was changing. Not just the garden, me. That night, I wrote something down in my old notebook, the one Margaret used for her plant notes. It wasn't a diary, exactly. Just a line. "Today, I planted a seed. Not sure if it'll grow. But I guess that's what faith is for." That was the beginning. Not of a garden, really. But of learning how to breathe again. I didn't know it then, but that little patch of dirt behind my house was going to save my life. They say that time heals everything. I don't think that's true. Time doesn't heal. It just waits quietly until you decide to start living again. For me, That moment began with a packet of seeds. It was late April when I found them. I was cleaning out the old drawers in the shed, mostly to avoid thinking too much. Margaret had labeled everything with her neat handwriting: rose fertilizer, gloves medium, seeds, do not touch unless you know what you're doing. That last one made me laugh. It was just like her, half warning, half teasing. I picked up the small brown packet. The label had faded, but I could still make out the word sunflower. She loved sunflowers. She said they were stubborn optimists, always turning their faces to the light, no matter where it came from. I sat there for a long time, packet in hand, thinking about how she used to plant them along the fence so the neighborhood kids could see them bloom. She said every yard needed something tall enough to look hope straight in the eye. So, I dug a small patch of soil near the fence and pushed a few seeds into the ground. My knees complained, my back cracked like old wood, but for once, I didn't mind. It felt like I was leaving a message somewhere she could still find it. That afternoon, I wrote in her notebook again. Planted sunflowers. For her. For the light she always followed. Days passed. I watered the soil every morning, sometimes with Eli's help. He'd show up, dragging his plastic watering can and asking 1,000 questions. Are they growing yet? No, not yet. How about now? Still no, kid. He'd pout, then shrug, and start poking the dirt with a stick. I wanted to tell him that growing things takes time, that you can't rush it. But every time I opened my mouth, I realized I was really the one who needed to hear that. One morning, about 2 weeks later, I noticed something small breaking through the dirt. A tiny green sprout, barely taller than a fingernail. I knelt down, heart pounding in my chest like I'd discovered treasure. It was ridiculous, really getting excited over a little piece of green. But I hadn't seen something new grow in a long time. I called Eli over. Look, I said, pointing. His eyes went wide. It's alive, he shouted, as if he'd just witnessed a miracle. And maybe we had. He crouched beside me, staring at the sprout like it was a baby bird. You think it misses its mom? He asked. I smiled. Maybe. But it's learning to stand on its own now. He nodded solemnly, the way only a 6-year-old can. Like you, mister. I didn't answer. I just looked at that tiny sunflower pushing its way through the dirt, and for the first time in months, I felt something like pride. That evening, the sky turned gold before sunset. I sat on the porch steps with a cup of tea, watching the light fall on the garden. The air smelled like soil and lilac. Somewhere, a lawnmower hummed in the distance. And in that ordinary moment, I realized something. The world hadn't stopped. I had. Grief had tricked me into thinking life had ended the day she left. But here it was buzzing, blooming, moving forward whether I joined in or not. That realization hit hard. I went to bed early that night, but sleep didn't come easy. My mind replayed old memories, Margaret laughing as she planted tulip bulbs, me pretending to hate gardening while secretly enjoying the time with her. I remembered how she'd hum "You Are My Sunshine" while watering the flowers. The melody got stuck in my head. And before I knew it, I was humming it softly into the dark. The next morning, I decided to clear more space in the garden. The roses needed trimming, the soil needed turning. I worked until sweat dripped into my eyes and my shirt clung to my back. I cursed, laughed, and cursed again. Eli brought me lemonade, too sweet, too warm, but I drank it anyway. He said his mom thought it was nice I was outside again. I almost told him I wasn't doing it to be nice. But I stopped myself. Maybe it was nice. Maybe that was enough. Later that week, I got a visitor. It was Sally, the casserole lady. She leaned on the fence, holding a basket of tomatoes. "You've been busy," she said. "The place is starting to look alive again." I wiped my hands on my jeans, trying to keep the weeds from winning. She smiled. Margaret would have loved that. For a second, I didn't know what to say. Compliments about her still felt like pressing on a bruise. But Sally didn't push. She just stood there, watching the bees float between flowers, then said quietly, "She used to drop off tomatoes for me every summer. Said they tasted like sunshine." I nodded, staring at the dirt. She had a way with growing things. Sally hesitated, then added, "She had a way with people, too." After she left, I sat there for a while, thinking about that. Margaret did have a way with people. She made friends with everyone: the mailman, the grocery clerk, the stray cat that lived behind our shed. And here I was, spending months avoiding the world she loved so much. I looked down at the seedlings swaying in the breeze and whispered, "You'd tell me to stop hiding, wouldn't you?" The wind rustled through the leaves, and for a moment, I almost heard her laughter in it. By mid-May, the garden was alive again. Not perfect, never like Margaret's, but breathing. The roses were budding, the sunflowers stood taller each day, and the grass finally looked like grass, not despair. And me? I was starting to remember how to laugh. It happened unexpectedly. Eli tripped over the hose and sprayed himself head to toe. I couldn't help it. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my watering can. He laughed too, though I think he did it just to make me feel better. After he left, I looked around the garden, sunlight filtering through the trees, and realized I hadn't felt this kind of peace in years. Not even before Margaret got sick. That night, I wrote in the notebook again. "The garden's growing faster than I expected." Maybe healing works like that, too quiet at first, then all at once. But healing isn't a straight path. A few days later, I found myself angry again for no reason at all. I was trimming the hedge when I noticed the old bird bath Margaret loved had cracked down the middle. Something about it broke me. I slammed the shears down and cursed louder than I meant to. The sound startled a few birds out of the tree, and I felt ridiculous. I sat on the ground, breathing hard, tears mixing with dirt on my hands. It hit me, grief doesn't disappear. It hides between moments of peace, waiting for you to think you're fine before reminding you that you're not. Eli must have heard me because he came running through the gate. "You okay, mister?" I wiped my face quickly. "Yeah. Just tired." He looked at the cracked bird bath and frowned. "We can fix it." "It's too broken," I said. He shook his head with a certainty only kids have. "Mom says nothing's too broken if you care enough." I wanted to argue, to explain that some things are, but instead, I just nodded. "We'll see, kid. We'll see." The next day, Eli showed up with a bottle of glue and a roll of tape. "Told you we can fix it?" And somehow, we did, or at least, we tried. It wasn't perfect. The crack was still there, visible and crooked. But when we finished, he grinned proudly. "See? Looks fine to me." I had to admit, from a certain angle, it did. That night, I sat by the window, looking out at the garden bathed in silver moonlight. The bird bath gleamed faintly, scarred but standing. And I thought, maybe that's what healing really is. Not erasing the cracks, but living with them and still choosing to bloom. By the end of spring, the first sunflower finally opened. It was tall and bright and defiant, facing the sun like it had never known darkness. Eli was there, of course. "It's huge," he shouted, running in circles around it. I just smiled. "She'd love this," I whispered. He looked up at me. "Who?" "My wife," I said softly. "Margaret." He smiled. "She must have been nice." "She was," I said, my throat tight. "Still is, I think. Just, in a different way." That evening, I wrote my longest note yet in the journal. "Today, the first sunflower bloomed. It doesn't fix the emptiness, but it makes it bearable." Maybe that's what living is, planting things even when you're not sure you'll see them grow. As summer crept closer, I found myself spending more and more time outside, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to. The air, the sunlight, even the sound of neighbors chatting across fences, it all felt alive again. And one morning, as I sat on the porch watching the wind move through the sunflowers, I realized something simple but profound. The garden wasn't just hers anymore. It was ours, hers, mine, and every living thing that had chosen to stay. By the time summer rolled in, the garden had turned into something of its own creature, half wild, half beautiful. The roses were blooming again, though not as neatly as Margaret would have liked. The sunflowers stood proud and loud, towering above the fence line. Bees hovered lazily over lavender, and the air smelled like warmth itself. It looked alive. And yet, some mornings, I still felt like I was just pretending. Grief is strange that way. You can plant new things, water them every day, and still feel the emptiness blooming right beside them. One morning, I was pulling weeds near the back corner of the yard when my trowel hit something hard. I dug around it and pulled out an old, rusted tin box. It was small, just big enough to fit in my palm. For a second, I thought it might be trash, but when I wiped the dirt off, I saw the faint outline of a flower drawn on the lid. Margaret's doodle. I opened it carefully. Inside were small, folded pieces of paper, yellowed, soft from time. My hands shook as I opened the first one. It was her handwriting. If you're reading this, it means you finally decided to clean the garden. Took you long enough. I laughed out loud. It startled a robin perched nearby. God, she always knew how to make me laugh, even from beyond the grave. The next paper read: remember the first time we tried planting carrots and ended up growing mutant turnips? You blamed the soil. I blamed your impatience. And another: this garden isn't just dirt and flowers. It's where we built our best years. So promise me you'll keep it alive, even when I can't. I had to stop reading. My throat burned, and my eyes blurred. I sat there in the dirt, the letters open in my lap, and for the first time in a long while, I cried without shame. The wind moved gently through the sunflowers, and I swear it felt like she was there sitting beside me, her hand brushing the back of mine. That evening, I showed the letters to Eli. He sat cross-legged on the porch, listening quietly. So she left those for you? He asked. Looks like it, I said, folding them carefully. That's kinda awesome, he said, grinning. Like a treasure hunt. Yeah, I said softly. The best kind. He was quiet for a while, then asked, do you miss her a lot? I looked out at the garden, the orange sun dipping low behind the trees. Every day, I said. But it's different now. Missing her doesn't hurt the same way it used to. It feels warmer. Eli nodded, thoughtful beyond his years. Mom says when people love you, they never really go away. They just become part of the stuff you love. I smiled. Your mom's a smart woman. He shrugged. She watches a lot of movies. The next few weeks were softer somehow. I'd wake up early, make coffee for one, and step outside barefoot. The soil was cool under my feet, the air thick with the smell of honeysuckle. I'd water the plants, talk to the roses, hum to the sunflowers like Margaret used to. And yet, even in the calm, there were days when the memories hit hard like weeds that grew overnight. Some nights I'd dream of her laughing, cooking, scolding me for burning the toast again. And then I'd wake up reaching for her side of the bed, only to find the empty sheets. Those were the mornings I avoided the garden. Because sometimes, the silence of it all was too much. One of those mornings, I found Eli waiting by the fence. "You didn't come out yesterday," he said, frowning. "The flowers missed you." "Did they now?" I managed a small smile. "Yeah," he said. "They looked sad." He wasn't wrong. The soil was dry, the petals drooping. We spent that morning watering everything. He talked about school, about how he wanted to be an astronaut, and about how his mom was teaching him to make pancakes without setting off the smoke alarm. His chatter filled the quiet spaces I couldn't fill myself. And by the time we were done, the garden looked alive again. Maybe I did, too. A few days later, Sally dropped by again, this time with iced tea and a plate of cookies that tasted suspiciously store-bought. "I see the sunflowers made it," she said, leaning on the fence. "They're stubborn," I replied. "Like her." Sally smiled. "That's what I loved about Margaret. She never gave up on anyone or anything." There was a pause. Then she said, "You know, she helped me when my husband passed. Sat with me every night for a week, right on that porch. Said I didn't have to talk, just had to sit." I swallowed hard. "Sounds like her. She'd be proud of you, you know," Sally added softly. "For keeping this place alive." I didn't know what to say. Compliments still felt too big to carry. So I just nodded. "I'm trying." "That's enough," she said. "It always is." That night, I took the tin box back out. I read her notes again, one by one, until the crickets started singing outside. Then I noticed something at the bottom, a small, unopened envelope. On the front, in her handwriting, it said, "For when the garden feels too quiet." I stared at it for a long time. Then I put it back. I wasn't ready yet. August came, and the days grew longer, heavier. The garden began to show signs of fatigue, leaves turning dry, petals curling in the sun. I tried to keep up with the watering, but some days the heat was too much. One afternoon, Eli didn't show up. His mom said he had summer camp. For the first time in weeks, I was alone in the garden again. It felt strange. Not painful, just different. I walked through the rows of flowers, touching each stem gently. Some were thriving. Others were fading. And for the first time, I didn't see failure. I saw the rhythm of things. The cycle Margaret always talked about: life, death, bloom, and rest. I sat down near the old bird bath and watched a single bee land on a sunflower. It stayed there for a while, then flew off, carrying something unseen. Maybe we're all like that, I thought, carrying bits of love and memory wherever we go. That night, I finally opened the envelope. Inside was a small card, with just one sentence written in her neat, looping script. When it gets too quiet, remember silence is where things start to grow. I read it 3 times. Then I set it on the table, beside the window that looked out into the garden. The moonlight fell across the flowers, the cracked bird bath, and the little paths we'd made through the soil. And in that quiet, I didn't feel alone. The next morning, I planted something new: wildflowers. Margaret used to love how unpredictable they were. You never know what color you'll get, she'd say, and that's the best part. As I dug my hands into the dirt, I realized something. The garden wasn't just a memory anymore. It was a conversation. Between me and her. Between past and present. Between loss and living. The weeds still came back, of course. They always do. But now, when I pulled them, I didn't curse. I just smiled and thought, some things need a little wildness to remind us we're alive. Later that day, Eli came running back from camp, his hair sun-bleached and messy. "Mister, you got new flowers." "Wildflowers," I said. "They'll surprise us." He grinned. "Like magic." "Something like that," I said. He looked around the garden, eyes wide. "It's really pretty now." I nodded, feeling the truth of it settle deep in my chest. "Yeah," I said quietly. "It really is." That evening, as the sun set, I sat on the porch with the tin box in my lap. I didn't read the letters this time. I just listened to the crickets, the rustle of leaves, the faraway sound of kids laughing down the street. The world felt big again. And for the first time since she left, I wasn't afraid of the silence. And to change. The sun wasn't as fierce anymore, and the evenings came with that cool whisper that hints at autumn. The garden had grown wild again, but this time, it was a good kind of wild. Not the chaos of neglect, but the kind of fullness that comes from being alive too long to care about perfection. I liked it that way. Margaret would have too, even if she'd never admit it. She used to chase symmetry, I chased simplicity. Between the two of us, the garden had always been a little bit of both. Now, it felt like her and me together again, imperfect, but whole. One morning, I was raking leaves when I noticed Sally and her grandkids walking by. The kids stopped at the fence, eyes wide at the sunflowers towering over them. "Can we see them up close?" one of them asked. "Of course," I said. "But only if you promise not to pick any. They're shy." The boy giggled. "Flowers can't be shy." "Sure they can," I said, winking. "You just have to listen carefully." They followed me inside, their laughter spilling through the yard like sunlight. The smallest girl pointed at a butterfly resting on a rose. "It's so pretty," she whispered. Sally watched from the gate, smiling softly. "You've got quite the fan club," she said. I shrugged, but my heart swelled a little. "They like the colors." "They like you," she corrected. Maybe she was right. Or maybe they just liked being somewhere that felt peaceful. Either way, I didn't mind. That afternoon, I brought out some lemonade and set up a few folding chairs. Soon, more neighbors began to stop by. A couple walking their dog. A teenager on a skateboard. The mailman who delivered our letters for 20 years. They all said the same thing: how nice the garden looked, how good it smelled, how calm it felt. And slowly, without me realizing, it became a place people came to just be. The funny thing is, I hadn't done anything special. I just kept showing up, watering, trimming, sitting. But somehow, the garden had started speaking on its own. Eli was the first to notice. He said it one afternoon as we were sitting by the bird bath, watching the bees. "It's talking, mister." "What is?" "The garden," he said. "You just have to listen." I chuckled. "And what's it saying?" He squinted, thinking hard. "It says, you're not sad anymore." That caught me off guard. "Oh? Is that what it says?" "Yeah," he said, nodding seriously. "It says you remember her, but now it makes you happy." I didn't know how to answer. Because somehow, he was right. The next week, Sally suggested something unexpected. "You should open it," she said. "Open what?" "The garden," she smiled. "Let people visit. You'd be surprised how many folks could use a little peace these days." At first, I thought she was joking. But she wasn't. And the idea lingered. Margaret always loved sharing things: food, stories, laughter. Me, I'd always been more private. But the garden had changed me. It was no longer just mine. So, one Saturday morning, I put a little handwritten sign at the gate. "The Healing Garden. Come in, sit a while." The first visitor was a man I'd never met before. He was in his 70s, wore a veteran's cap, and walked with a limp. He didn't say much, just nodded at me and sat quietly on the bench by the roses. We didn't talk. I watered the tomatoes, he watched the wind move through the flowers. After about 20 minutes, he stood up, smiled faintly, and said, "Haven't sat this still in years." Then he left. That's when I realized the garden didn't need words. It just needed space for people to feel, breathe, and maybe remember what gentle felt like. Over the next few weeks, more people came. A young mother with a crying baby, who left smiling. A couple arguing, who ended up holding hands under the oak tree. Even the local mailman, who began stopping by on his break just to listen to the quiet. Each time, I felt Margaret there. Not as a ghost or memory, but as presence, the kind that lives in laughter, in stillness, in kindness. The garden was speaking through them, through all of us. Then, one evening, the weather turned. A storm rolled in from the west, the kind that shakes the windows and smells like electricity. I went outside to cover the plants, but the wind was too strong. Branches cracked, rain poured sideways, and within minutes, the garden I'd tended for months was half underwater. I stood in the doorway, helpless, watching the storm tear through everything we'd built. When it finally passed, I walked out barefoot into the mud. The bird bath was knocked over. The sunflowers lay broken, their faces pressed to the dirt. The rosebushes were shredded, petals scattered like pieces of memory. For a long time, I just stood there, rain dripping from my coat, heart heavy in my chest. It felt like losing her all over again. The next morning, Eli came running over. "Mister, the garden." "I know," I said quietly. He froze when he saw the mess. His little shoulders slumped. "Can we fix it?" I wanted to tell him no. That some things can't be fixed. That nature doesn't care about what we love. But when I looked at his face determined, hopeful, I heard Margaret's voice in my head, "Nothing's too broken if you care enough." So I said, "Yeah, kid. We'll fix it." And we did. It took days. Sally brought coffee and sandwiches. The neighbors came with shovels and gloves. Even the old veteran returned, hammering the bird bath back into place. We didn't talk much, we just worked together. By the end of the week, the garden looked different, but somehow more beautiful. Not perfect, not the same, but stronger. That's when I understood, the garden wasn't speaking to me anymore. It was speaking through me to everyone who stepped inside. A few evenings later, when everything was quiet again, I sat on the porch and opened Margaret's notebook one last time. I'd filled most of the empty pages with my own notes and thoughts. But near the very back, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A pressed flower, a sunflower, faded and fragile. And beneath it, in her handwriting, "If you're ever lost, look for the ones who help you grow." I read it again and again, the words glowing softly in the fading light. Outside, the garden hummed with live crickets, wind, laughter from somewhere down the street. I realized then that Margaret had been right all along. We never really lose the people we love. They just become part of the soil, the air, the laughter that drifts through our days. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I stepped outside one last time. The moon was high, silvering the leaves. The garden shimmered in its soft light, every flower and stem breathing quietly in the dark. I whispered, "You did it, love. The garden's alive again." A soft breeze brushed past my cheek, gentle, familiar. And for the first time, I didn't ache for her. I thanked her. There's something about autumn light, the way it softens everything it touches. It doesn't blaze like summer or hide like winter. It just glows, as if the world is learning to let go gently. That's what the garden looked like now. Gentle. The wildflowers had begun to fade, the roses were quieter, and the last of the sunflowers bowed their heads like old men in prayer. The air carried that mix of soil and memory, the scent of endings, and beginnings too. I sat on the porch that morning, a cup of coffee in hand, and listened to the garden breathe. The wind rustled the leaves like soft applause. Somewhere, a bird sang a tune I couldn't name. And in that small symphony, I realized something simple. This was peace. Not the kind that comes from forgetting, but the kind that comes from remembering without pain. Eli still came by, though less often. School had started again, and he was growing up faster than I expected. He was taller now, his words a little more careful. But his curiosity hadn't changed. He showed up one Saturday with a jar in his hands. "Seeds," he said proudly. "Mom let me take some from her marigolds. You said wild is good, right?" "Right," I said, smiling. "Wild is perfect." We knelt together by the fence, digging small holes, pressing seeds into the cool earth. "Will they grow by spring?" he asked. "Probably," I said. "But even if they don't, we'll plant again. That's the deal with gardens. You keep trying." He thought about that. "Like people." I looked at him and nodded. "Exactly like people." After he left, I sat there longer than usual. Watching the garden, feeling the weight of all the seasons it had seen, from grief to bloom, from silence to laughter. Every inch of it carried a story now, the cracked bird bath, the bent sunflowers, the wild patch of marigolds that refused to die. It wasn't perfect. Neither was I. But it was alive. A few days later, Sally stopped by with a pot of apple butter. "For the man who turned a backyard into a sanctuary," she said with a wink. "Sanctuary?" I chuckled. "It's just a garden, Sally." She shook her head. "No. It's more than that. People come here and breathe differently. You can't tell me that's just dirt and plants." I didn't argue. She was right. But the truth was, I hadn't made this place what it was. Margaret had. Eli had. Everyone who stepped inside had left a piece of themselves here. That's what made it beautiful, not the order, but the belonging. That evening, I sat with the old tin box again. I didn't need to open it anymore, I knew what was inside. But holding it still gave me comfort. It was heavy with her words, her humor, her heart. I whispered, "You'd like it now, love. You'd laugh at how crooked the flower beds are. You'd scold me for letting the lavender run wild. But I think you'd be proud, too." The wind shifted then, rustling through the marigolds. And maybe it was just my imagination, but I swear I heard her laugh soft, distant, like the echo of sunlight on leaves. Weeks passed. The first frost arrived, quiet and silver. The garden slowed down, settling into its winter rest. I covered the fragile plants, trimmed the dead stems, and swept the path one last time. When I was done, I stood in the middle of it all, hands in my pockets, breath fogging in the cold air. It struck me that for the first time since she passed, I wasn't afraid of endings. Because now I knew endings aren't the opposite of life. They're part of it. And love, like roots, doesn't die when the season changes. It just waits for spring. A few days before Thanksgiving, Eli came by again, bundled in a jacket too big for him. "Mom says we're moving," he said, kicking at a pebble. "Dad got a job in another town." I felt something twist inside me. When? Next week. We were quiet for a bit. Then he said, "Can I take one of the flowers? For our new house?" "Of course," I said. "But take the seeds instead. Flowers fade. Seeds remember." He grinned at that. Before he left, he handed me a folded piece of paper. "It's for you." After he was gone, I opened it. Inside was a drawing of a big yellow sunflower with a smiling face. Underneath, in crooked letters, he'd written, "Thank you for the garden." It made everything feel better. I sat there for a long time, holding that piece of paper like it was something sacred. Winter came in quietly, laying its soft white blanket across the garden. The paths disappeared, the colors muted, but somehow, it didn't look dead. Just resting. Waiting. I kept my routines: coffee on the porch, short walks to the bird bath, a nod to the frozen roses. Some mornings I'd even catch myself humming again that same tune Margaret loved. The garden, even under snow, still spoke. Only now, it spoke of peace. One evening, near Christmas, Sally invited a few neighbors over. We sat around the porch, wrapped in blankets, sipping cider. Someone brought a guitar and started playing softly. The lights from the house spilled onto the snow, and I looked out at the garden: the bare stems, the frozen soil, the shape of what had been. It should have felt empty. But instead, it felt full. Every bloom, every person, every moment had led here to this stillness, this quiet understanding. I realized then, the garden hadn't just healed me. It had taught me how to live again. How to keep tending, even when things fall apart. How to open the gate, even when it hurts. How to bloom again and again no matter how long the winter lasts. That night, before I went to bed, I wrote the final entry in Margaret's notebook. "The garden's asleep now. But I think I finally understand what you meant. Healing isn't about getting better. It's about growing around the things you've lost." Thank you for teaching me how to plant again in soil, in people, in hope. I closed the notebook, set it on the windowsill, and looked outside. The moonlight shimmered across the frozen petals like silver dust. And for the first time, I whispered not to her, but to the garden. Thank you. Spring will come again, I know. Maybe I'll plant new things. Maybe I won't. But whatever grows next, it'll be enough. Because she's here. She's everywhere. In every root that clings. Every petal that falls. Every heart that learns to bloom again.